Well, let's do it. Everybody's been talking about it. Everywhere I look on social media, do you ever get in that phase where something like this happens and you just think, I can't go on social media because everyone's complaining and screaming and yelling and calling names and how dare you and wow. Is it just me or is it everywhere? Because it feels like it's everywhere. So, let's talk about it. So, first of all, I'm just going to read this because it's important to get the facts out before we start screaming and yelling and calling names. So, currently, the Trump administration isn't changing the rules that pertain to separating an adult from a child. Those are the same. Separation only happens, just so you understand, this is what the facts of the law is. When a family is trying to cross a border illegally, gosh, it's just such a weird thing to even talk about it in those contexts. Only if an official finds that the adult is falsely claiming to be the child's parent, or is a threat to the child, or is put into criminal proceedings. So just so you know, if a family is trying to cross the border illegally, there's a child with them, this is when they can be separated. Only, and nothing has changed with this law, is if the adult claims it's the parent and is not, the adult is a threat to the child, or if the adult is put into criminal proceedings. And that last part is the important part, because up until recently, adults that were trying to cross the border with kids were just given a free pass on the criminal proceedings. They weren't charged with anything crossing the border illegally. Even though it's illegal and it's against the law, it's breaking a law, they weren't charged with that. So they were given a free pass. The Trump administration is prosecuting all adults for illegally crossing the border. So this is an interesting one too. If you are a single person crossing the border, you get prosecuted because that's the law. And the law is, if you're a family crossing the border illegally, you get prosecuted. But up until now, if you have kids with you, they're like, oh, well, it's okay. You know, we know it's against the law, but whatever. If you're a single person trying to get into the U.S. to get a job or to meet family, whatever it is, and they're stopping you, but they're not stopping the family, what would you do? One, would you think it's fair? No. But two, wouldn't you get some people with you? Be like, hey, I'm going to go with you. We're all a family, right? We're a family. Let's cross the border. You're already committing an illegal act. It's already something that's against the law. One more breaking the law. Why is that big of a deal? I don't know why that's such a far stretch. So now the Trump administration is prosecuting anyone trying to cross our border illegally because that's what he was. That's the other thing too. That's what he was hired to do. You understand that the outcry is just that he's doing what he promised he would do. That's it. He said, I'm going to tighten up the borders, and now he's doing that. And people go, what? What do you mean? Well, that's what he meant, just so you know. Interesting. The person who has, on Facebook, do I understand it? Majority are made to take the trip without parents. Rick, the majority of kids are made to take the trip where? Back home into the U.S. without parents? But first of all, neither is true. Neither is true. They're not forced to make the trip without a parent, either back to their home country or into the U.S. What it is right now is they can be detained 20 days while they file for asylum. Here's the other thing too. If families file for asylum ahead of time, they don't get separated from their kids. If they wait until they're caught and then file asylum, then they can be separated because of the amount of time it takes. And that's hard. Joseph, are you talking to me? Because if you want to make a point, you totally can. If you're talking to somebody else, we ask you not to call anybody that's on Facebook names, but if you want to call me names, whatever. Here's an interesting one. Ted Cruz, I know I can't believe I'm saying this. Ted Cruz, of all people, has introduced emergency legislation to help in this problem. And again, there is a time constraint issue, so we're not quite sure what to do. So This is Ted's emergency legislation. Double the number of federal immigration judges from about 375 to 750. Authorize new temporary shelters with accommodations to keep families together. Mandate that illegal immigrant families must be kept together absent aggravated criminal conduct or threat of harm to the child. I'm okay with that. And then provide for expedited processing and review of asylum cases so that within 14 days, those who meet the legal standards will be granted asylum, and those who do not will be immediately returned to their home countries. The big pushback on this is the 14 days. To make a case for asylum, it takes a long time. And so what do we do while that case is being made? And what if you can't make that case within 2 weeks? And what I think you'll hear from the other side, and it may be a very fair case, is, come on, 2 weeks? Really? You know you're just going to send them back. I mean, if it's 2 weeks, just make it 1 week because you know you can't make a case in that amount of time anyway. You're just holding them for 2 weeks, then sending them back. It's kind of that revolving, not revolving door, but just kind of, here's 3 hots and a cot, for 2 weeks, and then we're going to send you back. And again, this is the other outcry. And this is the interesting thing, too. This, to me, sounds more reasonable, and because it doesn't address building a wall and like everything else in immigration, then we get this infighting where both parties won't sign. Like, oh, we're not going to do it because it doesn't have this and this and this and this, and doesn't have this thing and doesn't have that thing and this other thing. So I'd love to hear somebody make a case about that 14-day piece. Is that fair? Is that not fair? Can you make a case within 14 days? Can you not? Again, where does this money come from? We're already broke as a country, so where does this money come from? And then this is the last thing that I'll close with. I'm renewing my passport. We renewed Lincoln's passport 2 years ago, I think. He's 11, and we have a baby passport for him. He got a passport before he turned 1 because I had to work in Australia. And guess what? You can't travel with a baby unless you can prove you're the parent. If we didn't have a passport, they'd say, and this is my understanding, and again, if somebody is listening that has a specific legal, if you can cite the law that says this isn't true, because everything I'm hearing is if you get to the border and they're like, hey, if you continue this way, we're going to have to separate you. You can choose to turn around and go back. If we get to the airport with baby Lincoln at 1, going to Australia so Dad can work, which is exactly what I was doing, and they go, oh, you can't do that, or we'll take your baby away from you. If you want to go to Australia and work, you can, but we're going to hold your baby because you can't prove that he's yours. I'm going to go home. I won't work that day. I'm not going to fly to Australia for a couple weeks and work and then have them hold Lincoln and put him in foster care, something like that. That doesn't sound like a good idea to me. Again, huge white privilege being spoken there. I get it. If you're trying to get to America because you're looking for a better life, obviously you can't just turn around and go home necessarily. I don't want to be callous in saying that at all. And again, I was going to say I'll close with that, but I want to close with something different. We had a nanny for a long time who entered the country. I think she entered the country illegally. I'm trying to figure out how it happened. So, man, I found this out years later. Entered the country with a 1 and a 2-year-old. So all 3 entered illegally. 2 technically, legally stating against their will. The 2 kids came here against their will. They were brought by an adult. They didn't make a choice in the matter, and they didn't have age appropriateness to make that choice. Well, they grew up here from 1 and 2 on, but they've never been Americans. They're also not Mexicans. They don't have citizenship in either place. Well, one does. They both do now. One son is back in Mexico. He works for Amazon. He's got a great job. The daughter is here. She joined the DREAM Act and the military and got her citizenship. And she went to college, is a super hard worker, and they're doing very, very well. And our nanny got married and had a baby and applied for citizenship and is now living here legally as well. The problem is the son was held in a detention center for almost 3 years. And what do you do with him? He's not Mexican. He's been here since he was 1 or 2. And at that time, he was an adult. He was 21. He's been here for his entire life. What do you do? And be like, oh, kick him out. Well, then you're calloused and you're a jerk. And I don't think you can call yourself a person of faith who has Christ in their heart. I don't think that you can do that. So the problem is this is a sticky, messy situation, and we want something easy that makes everyone feel good, and that isn't going to happen. It's just not going to happen. The reason Trump is saying they're going to prosecute every single adult coming to the border, they're sending that message out to the world saying, hey, this is what's going to happen. Because what's currently taking place is the number of families coming to the border is rising very, very quickly. It used to be that most illegal immigration to the U.S. was single males coming for work, and they bring money home to their families. I've known a number of people that have done this. That's changing. It's now shifting. It's mostly families now. And the reason is it's better here. Oh my goodness, it is. It's better for the kids. We have better systems. We have better programs. You get a better education. You get better health care. You get better everything. And parents want what's best for their children, and so they try to come here. That's really understandable. It is. I'm a parent. I want what's best for my kids. If I thought it wasn't here, I'd try to get to some place where it's better. Now, if that was an easy process, I'd get there. If I found out that once I get to the border, there's a good possibility they're going to take my kids away from me and it's going to be a serious process, maybe I might look for something else. Maybe I might find something as an alternative. And I think that's what this administration is trying to do, is saying, hey, we can't take the world into America. It's bad for the world. It's bad for America. So we're letting you know we're going to stop you at the border. We will prosecute you. That's going to be a huge bummer for you. Please choose something different. Well, all right. Questions, comments? Otherwise, I'll turn it off. I think someone called me a moron, but maybe not. That's it. Peace out. Have a good one.